Peace, friends. I'm Tom Arthur, pastor of Sycamore Creek Church in Lansing, Michigan, and you're watching Our Daily Shelter. Amidst COVID-19, we are all sheltering in place, resulting in new stresses in our lives, but also new opportunities. This daily-ish live interactive video podcast is here to help you not only shelter in place, but shelter in God's grace. To find God's grace in your home and the practical situations we all find ourselves in each day these days. Or Psalm 91 verse 1 puts it, those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. In each episode of this video podcast, we get to know and learn from an expert in one area of stress we all know too well. We cut right to the chase. What's the one big thing we need to know or do to shelter in God's grace? You can join in the live Q&A by posting a question in the comments or by joining us on our live Zoom webinar at sycamorecreekchurch.org/ODS. That's Our Daily Shelter. And if you're watching on Facebook, would you share this video right now so that others can join in the conversation too and find a little bit of God's grace for today? Let's shelter in God's grace together right now. Right now, we're all asking the same big questions about life. Is there a God? Is God good? And if God is good, why is there so much suffering in the world? Those questions cross every religion. Today, we continue the last week of the first season of Our Daily Shelter by exploring how each of the 5 major world religions, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, and Christianity, looks at the question of suffering or evil in God or the divine. This week, in conjunction with the series we're doing in our worship services called Christianity and World Religions, we're having a representative from each of the world religions on our show this week. And today I am really excited to help us have with us our guest, Amy Pletsch, to talk about Buddhism and suffering. Amy has been practicing Buddhism for almost 15 years, and she has a background in molecular biology and neuroscience that led to an interest in Buddhism's practice of mindfulness and meditation. I first met Amy when she came to our summer small group on Christianity and World Religions. And of all our guests that summer, Amy best summarized Buddhism on a level that my children could understand. So I'm really thrilled to have you on our show today, Amy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much. It's really wonderful to be here with everyone in virtual reality.
In virtual reality. You're a little bit in virtual reality right now because we hear you, but we don't see you. You're in a sort of unique setting right now.
I am. I've been amazingly fortunate during these times. Actually, before the start, I had planned a 2-month solitary meditation retreat for April and May to coincide with a retreat that's having audio stream teachings that happens most years. And it just happened that this was the time. I had to change a few plans, but one retreat center closed, one came free because there were cancellations. So I'm here sheltering in place by myself, but strangely enough, it was planned.
You're sheltering in place at a retreat center, practicing your religion.
I am.
Yeah. So the data connection there's not a lot of Wi-Fi at a retreat center, is there?
At this one, there is no Wi-Fi, so I apologize for you not being able to see me, but you're not missing much.
we have a nice picture of you up on the screen, so thank you for joining us nonetheless. So what's it been like? I mean, you were already planning on sheltering in place, it sounds like. What's it been like while the rest of us have been perhaps at our own home retreat centers for a month and a half?
It's been a wonderful experience for me. I always enjoy solitude and being able to return to my solitary practice and what some people kind of refer to as boot camp before we go out into the front lines and engaging with others. So I've seen a wonderful metaphor that says, we're not all in the same boat, but we are weathering the same storm. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
very fortunate in that my boat has been relatively unrocked and very, if I dare say, pleasant. But I'm well aware that that's not the case for many of us around. A friend sent me an article where somebody was talking in Ipsy, probably less than 5 miles from where my home is, that he knows 20 people who have died from the
Wow.
COVID-19 virus. I mean, not people who have been infected or tested positive, people who have died,
Mm.
including his lifelong friend. So yeah, there's
Wow.
definitely a lot of suffering going around, and it's
Yeah.
not easy for a lot of people.
Yeah. How long ago did you plan this retreat?
Um, Probably at least 6 months. It happens most years. So it was originally, if I was going to do it in person, it would have been in Italy. But
Oh,
then I
wow.
actually had planned to do it solitary this time because
Mm-hmm.
it's a different experience. Both have their being with a group and being solitary during retreats, they both have advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
But I had actually planned to do this one solitary, and then as it turned out, now nobody's going to Italy to do it. Everyone's
Yeah.
doing it in
Yeah.
place. So very interesting.
So I think it's particularly unique, and maybe especially appropriate that we don't see you as you're in solitary or in solitude. But I'm also feel really honored that you would take the time out of that retreat to join us today. Thank you so much for doing that. You really honor us with that.
Well,
So Buddhism has a lot to say about suffering, and in many ways, as I understood from you, that it boils down to suffering. I mean, that's kind of the essence of what Buddhism is reflecting on or working with. So, tell us, what's the one big thing that we need to know about Buddhism and suffering?
yeah, as you say, there's a million things you could say. Buddhism is all about ending what we normally translate as suffering and its causes, and thereby leading to the converse, hopefully lasting happiness. The big thing that Buddhism has to say that might, especially in our modern society, be slightly different from where normally we're looking, is in modern society, normally when we think about pursuing happiness or ending suffering, largely what the media and society is looking to, we think about accumulating happiness, we think about accumulating wealth or money, what we can
Mm-hmm.
buy from it, power, prestige, and fame, and those sorts of things that are all external,
Yeah.
largely termed hedonia. But those things, as we know, even if you have enough, looking at really wealthy, famous people, they don't necessarily seem, as long as you have enough, they don't necessarily seem that much happier
Yeah.
than those of us who have enough. And we can't control the outside world. Most of us have little to no control over the pandemic, whether or not we're going to lose our jobs, the economy, people can like or dislike us for little or no reason. So like many of the other wisdom traditions of the world, it's not a new idea. Buddhism chooses to look inside, to look at the mind for its
Mm-hmm.
main source of happiness. And, largely termed, the Greeks had a term called eudaimonia,
Yeah.
genuine happiness, the happiness that comes not from what we get from the world, but what we can bring to the world, what we can, through our spiritual practice, cultivate and strengthen inner qualities that we can have, such as integrity, benevolence, wisdom, faith, love. And these qualities, if properly cultivated and strengthened, they can't be taken away no matter what happens on the outside. And they can kind of serve to fortify and protect our minds so that we don't suffer as much when outer circumstances are unfavorable. And then also, if we have these inner qualities and we act out of them, we bring them out into the world and also serve to help alleviate the suffering of others.
So how do
From
we
this,
do that? How does a Buddhist understand that we have that kind of eudaimonia?
yeah, it starts with the mind, and basically cultivating wisdom. What we understand is, in all Buddhist schools, is ourselves. You gave a wonderful, one of the times that when I came to visit you, you happened to be giving the sermon on how we identify our identities. And this is very much in parallel to what the Buddhists look towards, is how we normally identify with and call what we call ourselves I, me, and mine falsely is not really I, me, and mine. And that can cause a lot of suffering.
A clear sense of self is a path away from suffering, it sounds like.
Right. And depending on how you interpret it, this might not hold true for all schools of Buddhism, but in Zen and through, it's a Zen saying, and throughout the Dzogchen schools of Tibetan Buddhism, there's a pith little saying that the difference between Buddhas and sentient beings being those of us who are not Buddhas, is that sentient beings don't know who they are, but Buddhas do.
Okay. So who does a Buddha know that he is? Or she? Or they?
No, basically that they are a Buddha, that there are many terms for this. Basically, there's that their mind is what it can be: Buddha nature, ultimate reality, the subtle stream of mental consciousness, primordial consciousness, pristine awareness. And it is through identifying with that mind rather than our normal sentient being's mind with all our like hatred, greed, and those sorts of what we call mental afflictions, through identifying with that which is ultimately what all is the ground of being and what is of its essential nature, love, then through that, realizing that that is our nature, then we can not suffer.
So friends, I want to remind you that you can ask Amy some questions about Buddhism. You can put those in the Q&A here in Zoom or in the comments section in Facebook. Our executive producer, Jeremy, is paying attention to those, and he is going to bring those to us here in just a little bit. Amy, one of the things that as I've studied Buddhism a bit, and I've been reading lately Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama's book on joy, most recently. It's a really interesting book, and it strikes me that Buddhism, I want to say it's atheistic. I don't mean that it's atheistic. It seems to be more a system of thought or perhaps behavior than it is. I mean, it has religious-like components to it, but am I describing that well, or help me describe that better?
It really depends on the school of Buddhism. I think the Theravada Buddhists very much actually do sometimes seem fairly atheistic. There are all sorts of, in Asian cultures, maybe earth spirits and types of things that are sometimes, paid homage to and things, but they're not really considered like gods in the realm of all powerful. But in others there are more religious aspects where personifications of this Buddha nature, and sometimes you see pictures of them, are sort of put up more like in the Christian way that God was. But it really depends. But yeah, it's fairly heterogeneous as far as that goes. But overall, it's atheistic, as you say, can be very descriptive.
Yeah. Okay. So Jeremy's been paying attention to the Q&A. Jeremy, what do people want to ask Amy?
Hi, Amy. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, it sounds like you're having a wonderful time there at your own retreat. That actually sounds really good. Tom, did you say you're going to go on a spiritual retreat tomorrow?
I'm trying to. So maybe Amy will hook me up, because I wasn't quite sure how to do it in quarantine.
Yeah, right. Shelter in home, or have a spiritual retreat at home with your family there. That could be interesting. All right. Okay. So, Amy, we have a question here for you. It says, I have recently found that I can understand the reality of my situation in my mind, but that doesn't seem to stop it from hurting in my heart. This person's talking about suffering. What does Buddhism say about the connection of the mind and the heart?
And Buddhism mostly is translated from Asian languages, Sanskrit, Pali, and then the various Japanese, Chinese, whatever other languages, Tibetan. And in most Asian languages, there isn't a separation between mind and heart. It's kind of thought of as one thing, the mind-heart. So intellectually and our emotions, those things very much play into one another. And sometimes there can be quite a split and quite a dichotomy, meaning, oh, like I know this shouldn't bother me, but it still does. And we don't always have as much control over whether or not we suffer as we think we do, as we think or we might like to. And that is part of the mind-heart training that Buddhism tries to get into. And ultimately, it's not easy. It is, we do suffer, and our minds and our hearts sometimes do need a lot of cultivation in order to know that, one, it's okay, it happens, and then to ultimately be able to protect ourselves and those around us from the hurt that is almost inevitable in the world.
Amy, talk just a little bit about it. So I understand that kind of one of the goals of Buddhism is detachment. Am I saying that correctly, or help us understand how detachment works?
Yeah, that's one of the things that's easy to misunderstand because of the wording, especially from the outside, and even Buddhists do. One point that is often missed is that in Buddhism, there's the sense that my suffering isn't any more important than yours, just by nature. And in the Mahayana schools of Buddhism, the whole point of me decreasing my suffering is to alleviate the suffering of all others. So when we think of detachment, it's definitely not that, you know, that I should care more about me than others. It's very, very much in most schools of Buddhism, or many schools of Buddhism, the opposite, that I need to alleviate suffering because all other beings suffer too. And there's also a very important idea in Buddhism that's highlighted in many schools of Buddhism of interdependence, in that, you know, even it's become very clear to me, almost paradoxically. So, you know, here I have everything I need. I have all my food, you know, I can do my laundry, I cook here by myself. But it became very apparent to me that the only reason I'm able to be here is because of other people. Other people taking care of the sick. My husband's very supportive. He, you know, brings me food every once in a while. If he didn't do that, if the people in the grocery store didn't stock the shelves, if the delivery people didn't bring the stuff to the grocery store, the farmers, the farm hands, and so on and so forth, all of these things, you know, people think sometimes that if they were wealthy, that it would be all okay. They could be an island unto themselves. But, you know, wealth, you can't eat money. You can't eat your bank account. So those things only have value because of other people, because other people are willing to and do exchange money for services and goods. So the idea of detachment is one of mental cultivation, and it's a very strict idea that we shouldn't. It's looking at something else as a source of our happiness, but it's not. It's not being altruistic, not understanding interconnectedness, very much the opposite. It's not looking at something else outside as a source of my happiness. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy good food. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy the company of other people, but we have little control over that. Somebody could decide, you know, they don't make your favorite pizza anymore at the restaurant, blah, blah, blah. If you say, I need that to be happy, and that's what they mean by attachment. If there's kind of a selfishness to it, and most things we experience are kind of an alloy of one's, you know, especially relationships with other people, we truly enjoy and want to give to the other people. But there's usually a little bit of, I like you because, you know, I get enjoyment out of being with you. And it's that selfishness, that part of our interaction with the world, that is technically in Buddhist terms called attachment. And that's what we're trying to get rid of.
I thought for a minute there that you were going to confess that really you're just eating Grubhub and ordering takeout pizza there at your retreat center, and relying on everybody else to bring you your goodies.
No, I'm still, I mean, if you can even call it that, cooking. Yeah, I have supplies and I'm making quasi-edible things out of them and ingesting them.
Yeah. Hey, Amy, if we've just scratched the surface of Buddhism, and if people want to keep up with you or send you some more questions, or how would they do that?
I am on Facebook. On Facebook, my last name is Amy, so I think you can search for Amy. If not, I think I am now connected with you. So if people look at your friends list, they should be able to find me. If for some reason I'm not connectable, I will say that especially now that I'm on retreat, I might not answer, don't check Facebook necessarily every day. So please be patient with me. And I think you also have my email address. So if people wanted to email it or not on Facebook, that's also.
Jeremy, you want to put that email address in the chat section there?
I can do that. Yep.
So normally, Amy, I take some time to ask how we can pray for folks, but since you're on a meditation retreat, I thought that perhaps we could just do a little bit of a couple of deep breath meditations together with you. And in that way, we would join you in meditating and praying. And of course, meditation is a place of overlap, I think, between Buddhism and Christianity. So friends, I'm going to just invite you to join with me and Amy in taking some big, deep breaths. Breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Let's do that one more time. Breathe in. And breathe out. Friends, join me in giving Amy some love in the comment section and thanking God for her. Again, I'm especially honored, Amy, that you would take the time from your retreat to spend with us here. There are a couple of things that I want you to be aware of that are coming up. This week, we're wrapping up the first season of Our Daily Shelter. We'll take a week or maybe two off, and then we're going to come back with season 2. So we'd love to hear your suggestions on what topics you'd like to see covered in season 2. You can drop me an email, tom@sycamorecreekchurch.org, or make some suggestions right now in the comments, and Jeremy is paying attention to those. We're wrapping up season 1 alongside our current series, Christianity and World Religions, by interviewing representatives from each of the major world religions, talking about how their religion understands suffering or evil amidst COVID-19. And tomorrow at 4 p.m., our guest is Rabbi Arnie Sludelberg. He is the Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation Shir Tikva in Troy, Michigan, and he'll be talking about Judaism and suffering. Right now, whatever your religion, we all need to connect with something bigger than ourselves. So Sycamore Creek has been busy building online environments where we can find daily connection points with God and with others. Stay connected with us right now through our digital connection card at sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. Don't shelter alone. Connect with others in God at Sycamore Creek. Friends, you've been watching Our Daily Shelter, a daily-ish live interactive video podcast and ministry of Sycamore Creek Church in Lansing, Michigan. In this time of sheltering in place, we think it's important to connect with the community. So find community every Sunday at 1 p.m. in a live interactive worship event at sycamorecreekchurch.org/SL Worship. That stands for South Lansing Worship. or every Monday night in a church-wide video chat open to everyone at sycamore-creek-church.org/allchat. You can connect with us and we can connect with you through our digital connection card found at sycamore-creek-church.org/connect. Submit prayer requests here on this topic or really any topic, or by email at prayers@sycamore-creek-church.org. We've got a team of people who are praying for you daily. Download and check out our app by searching for SCCMI in your app store, and you'll find lots of great resources there, including past and current sermons. You can also join the mission of Sycamore Creek by giving financially through the app or at our website, sycamore-creek-church.org. Your generosity helps make resources like Our Daily Shelter available for free. Take a moment and like and follow us on Facebook and share this video with your friends so they can find daily shelter in God's grace too. You may be sheltering in place, but we're here to help you shelter in God's grace. Make your home a shelter of the Most High.